suddenly you've got paddocks full of grass, and it really is a marked difference. About 15 years ago, when we first came into this paddock here, we didn't have any of the grasses that you see around now. What we had was goathead burr, and that was all that there was. Since we started with controlling the watering points like we do, rotational grazing, and trying to address the issues of total grazing pressure, we've been able to get grasses established here, which means that we've got a variety of feed, biomass has increased, and the thing is now that we still do have copper burr, goathead burr and other burrs around as well, but we've got grasses established as well, so these healthy ecosystems have come into play. My name's Dean Schellnegger. The name of the property we're on here is Opal Downs. We're about 15 kilometres south of Lightning Ridge. We're located on the Castlereagh Highway in northern New South Wales. We've got sheep and wheat. We've been trying to improve the property ever since we've been here, trying to get more ground cover established, control weeds that we've got. Hudson pear has been a particular problem, and of course we've got feral animal issues with goats and pigs that are constantly need to be monitored. We also cull kangaroos, and we've got a shooting program in place. We've been involved with total grazing pressure, looking at total grazing pressure to just get grasses established on our property so that we're more resilient in times of dry. And total grazing pressure basically is not just about the stock that we've got here, it also includes all our native animals, kangaroos, the pest animals of course such as pigs and goats. They come around and they eat the grasses, they use the ground the same as our stock do. And really, they can be more of a burden than the stock. So as well as controlling our stock numbers through fencing and switching watering points, we also need to carry out eradication programs. When total grazing pressure is managed properly, then you can start to see the re-emergence of your grass species that you probably haven't seen before, because it takes a long time once places have started to lose their species of grasses for them to return. And it's important that you have those variety of species of grasses established, because once it starts to get dry and the country comes under pressure, the more grasses you've got established, the more biomass there is, which is you get as a result of reducing total grazing pressure, then the longer your stock will be healthy and the better your country will be all the time. So if your country's better, then your stock are going to be better, and long term you're going to get the benefits. So you won't have to destock as quickly, and your stock won't be run down. At the end of the day, if your stock do better, you do better and your country does better. So from a practical point of view, managing the total grazing pressure comes down to being able to rotate your stock. We can turn on and off watering points such as this, which is bore fed. That gives us the ability then to not just move the stock, but it'll stop goats coming and watering here. Kangaroos and pigs are not quite as keen to come to areas where there's not so much access to water. So then from that point of view, there's less impact, not just on eating the grass, but also on the ground. So if you've got pigs, for instance, they're going to root up the ground, and you've got pads that they make, so when it rains, you've got all sorts of issues with soil degradation start to happen. Heading towards rotational grazing is what we're aiming for. And of course, the other thing is that we do shooting. We've got shooting programs on, and if we've got big problems with foxes and pigs, we have taken on baiting programs in the past, but we do them at selected times when they have maximum impact. The ultimate aim is that we want to establish more grasses, more species of grasses, and so the place doesn't just look better, but it is better, it's more practical, more usable. When it starts to get dry, if we've got too high kangaroo numbers, there's not enough grass on top of the ground, the kangaroos will actually dig the ground up to eat the roots of the grasses. You don't just lose the grass on top of the ground, you also lose what's established below the ground. So that once the rain starts to come and things should regenerate, you've lost too much, and it'll take years for that to re-establish. So control of everything, kangaroos, goats, pigs, it's important, as well as moving your stock around. We've had assistance with fencing programs through the CMA that has helped us establish this, and we can see the results. In the past, I don't think it was really thought about as much, and people just didn't consider it. It was just a matter of, we'll put the stock in there and leave them there and see what happens. And we've started to spell the country at times. In the hotter months, we've got paddocks that we don't have stock in, so that the grasses can re-establish, depending on the seasons, of course. Some seasons, if it's not conversant to grass growth, you don't get much result. But if it is, and you've got the right seasons, it's actually very effective. We've got paddocks here that before we put additional fencing in place, we really could not get a good body of feed established because we could not restrict the stock access. The reason we couldn't do that is because some of the paddocks were too large. There was only certain times of years that we could use them. We did not have the option not to stock them. Now, with additional fencing, we've got the option not to stock them. With these troughs, the watering points, we can switch them off when we want. Eventually, we want to fence our dams, which we haven't done yet, but we will get to that. And then that'll give us more control for the total grazing pressure. But the effects are obvious, really. Generally, 30% of the area of the paddock is where we grow wheat in is actually a nature strip. So when the stock are not in that paddock, all the grasses grow in those nature strips. Once we've stripped the wheat, then we've got the ability then to put the stock in those paddocks in a high density for a short period of time. That'll spells the rest of the country we've got. So then we'll have 13 paddocks. We won't have 13 paddocks then that'll have no stock in them at all for probably 6 to 8 weeks every year, because we've got the ability to put all the stock into the cultivation paddocks. Once we do that and we get that going, I think we're going to see more improvements in what we've got with our country now. Since we've established more grasses, biodiversity obviously increases as well as a direct result. You end up with a lot more, not just ground covering live species, but a lot more ground litter cover, and hence you get a lot more microbes in the soil, which are, well, they're like little fertilising units, and they break down all the nutrients from the leaf litter, etc. that's on the ground, and they self-mulch it into the soil. We're a little bit fortunate here too that the type of country we've got is referred to as self-mulching soil. It's just a better habitat all around. I think what it starts to do, it starts to re-establish ecosystems that have probably broken down in the past. They may not be the same ecosystems that originally existed, but nevertheless they're ecosystems. And the longer that we can maintain ground cover, increase biodiversity, then the whole show will get up and running and it'll self-regulate in the finish, providing we keep some of the pest animals under control a bit.